Deep in the heart of an ancient oak tree lived a family of fairies. The tree was so old that its roots had turned into tunnels and caverns, and the fairies had made their home inside. There were fairy gardens and furniture crafted from leaves and petals, all glowing with soft, beautiful light. One day, a little girl named Lily skipped past the oak tree. She was on her way to pick flowers for her mother, who wasn't feeling well. Fairies are known to be very shy, but curious little Lily didn't know that. She looked through the tree's window and saw the most amazing sight: a tiny house made out of twigs and leaves and lit up by magical fireflies. Lily wanted to take a closer look, so she climbed up the oak tree. Just as she reached the window, a little blue fairy with gossamer wings fluttered past her face. Startled, Lily fell backwards off the tree. The blue fairy hovered in front of her, scolding her for spying on them. But when she saw how upset Lily was, her anger turned to concern. Fairies are known for their healing powers, so she led Lily back to her house. Inside, everything was even more amazing than Lily had imagined. Tiny chairs and tables were set out in the clearing, and the walls were decorated with sparkling dewdrops and brightly colored pebbles. A feast fit for a queen had been laid out on the table. There were cakes made of dandelions and mushrooms, cups filled with honeydew, and plates piled high with berries. And in the center of it all sat a huge loaf of bread, which must have been at least a foot long. The blue fairy explained that this was no ordinary bread. It was magic bread, and each slice could make one wish come true. Now, fairies don't eat ordinary food. They only consume magic. So they took great care of this bread, keeping it fresh and protected from harm. But since Lily had come all this way, the blue fairy offered to share a slice with her. Of course, Lily had many wishes, but being kind and thoughtful, she decided not to waste the magic. She thought long and hard before saying, "I wish my mother would feel better." The blue fairy waved her magic wand and, poof, the bread was gone. Then she led Lily back to the window to show her something amazing. All around the oak tree, the sick flowers suddenly began to glow with magical light. They were completely healed. Overjoyed, Lily ran home to give her mother the good news. The blue fairy watched her go and sighed happily. It had been a long time since a human had visited them, and even longer since one had shared their magic with the fairies. Just then, a gruff voice boomed through the tree. "Who gave you permission to share the magic bread with a human?" It was the oldest and biggest of the fairies, and he wasn't happy. He explained that their magic was very powerful, and if humans got their hands on it, they might use it for evil instead of good. The blue fairy argued that Lily hadn't wished for anything selfish, but the old fairy just shook his head. He was worried that this would happen again, so he ordered the blue fairy to keep guard duty. If any humans came spying on them again, she would have to chase them away. The blue fairy was very disappointed. But she knew better than to argue with the great fairy king. She flew to the window to keep watch, but soon became bored. Humans were so predictable. They always did the same things. walk their dogs, play their games, read their books. How could she possibly watch over them all day? Suddenly, she heard a giggle and peeked around the corner. There was a little boy peeking through the window. Like Lily, he was mesmerized by their magical home. The blue fairy hid behind the curtain just as he climbed onto a nearby branch. Soon, he was looking right at her. Startled, the boy fell off the branch and landed with a thud. The blue fairy immediately flew down to help him. And when she saw how hurt he was, her heart went out to him. He had scraped his knee badly, and it would be a long time before it healed. The blue fairy waved her magic wand, and poof! The boy was better as good as new. He was so surprised that he fell backwards off the tree, landing in a soft patch of grass. Then he looked up at the blue fairy and asked if she was a real fairy. She nodded shyly, and he told her that he had a wish. "I wish I could stay here forever and play with you," he said. The blue fairy waved her magic wand and, poof, the boy was gone. She hadn't meant to do that. She just couldn't say no to his wish. But what was she gonna do now? The great fairy king would be very angry when he found out. She had no choice but to hide him. The blue fairy led the boy back to the oak tree's window. And when he saw the tiny house and all the magical things inside, his eyes grew wide with wonder. She helped him change into clothes made of flower petals and leaves, and soon he was one of the fairies. They spent the whole day playing, and he even got to try some magic bread. By the time the sun went down, they had become the best of friends. And as the other fairies slept, the blue fairy told him all about their magical world. Together, they made a plan to keep the boy hidden, but no matter how hard they tried, it wasn't easy. The great fairy king was very wise and soon realized that someone had broken the rules. He flew into a rage and vowed to find the human boy. Will the fairies find a way to hide the boy from the great fairy king? Or will he discover their secret and banish the boy back to the human world? Click here to find out what happens next.